Thanks everyone for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. I am your host, Lorenzo Melcher, coming to you live from my parents' basement. I guess not live. I say that a lot, but it's not live. You're just listening to it when you're listening to it. Anyway, as I say every week, thanks to all of you, whoever you are, for liking, sharing, subscribing, downloading the podcast, doing whatever you can to get this podcast out there. It is greatly appreciated. We are gaining momentum, slowly but surely, and whatever this podcast turns into, who knows what it's going to turn into. But I'm having fun doing it, and I hope you're having fun listening to the episodes. So please reach out to us if you want to through email. It's thenerdballpodcast@gmail.com. We are on all social media. Just search the Nerdball Podcast. And of course, go check out the YouTube page to watch me talk to people. And sometimes we have video of just us, and sometimes there's internet things included. So who knows what you may see with your own two eyes on the YouTube page. And hit that subscribe button so we can continue to progress as we get closer to 200 subscribers. So be a part of the movement, the Nerdball movement. So again, I appreciate all of you. I hope you enjoy the episode. Don't forget about things I've learned, things I learned? Yeah, things I learned. That comes out every Tuesday. A new episode went out this Tuesday, so please check that out. That's on the same feed here. It's just the little show, and I call this the big show. So thanks again. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, this is Cody Mastin, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
All right, Cody, thanks for driving out here, coming on the podcast.
No problem.
I'm real excited because I met you, was that last summer, I think?
Actually, I think it was this summer. Yeah, it might have been. No, it was last summer.
Was it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. New Year.
Yeah. So you came out just to look at a job for us at Glass City, and then we started talking about your dirt bike racing, all that stuff. So I want to get into that because that's really exciting. I'm excited for the listeners to hear that.
Yeah.
But what I always ask my guests, especially first-time guests, is what is something you've been nerding out about? Something you're really into lately? It could be something you just started, something you just did, or something you've been doing your whole life.
Yeah, so recently I would have to say it's Detroit Lions.
Okay.
I've been a Lions fan since I was a little kid. My dad, we went to a few games as kids, and Barry Sanders was like the dude. Well, as a kid, I was like, you always wanted to watch the best guy. Well, then as I got older, I realized the Lions were never good, but I kept liking them, kept rooting for them, and finally they're like doing something. So it's like I've been really getting into it. So
yeah, and that can be difficult as a kid too, because you want to be part of a winner, right? As a kid,
yeah.
And I know for me, I like the Cowboys. So when I was younger, they won Super Bowls. So I was like, this is it. This is awesome. This is my team. And then they went a long time and haven't really won anything. So it's good to hear that you stuck with it. What was your dad a Lions fan? Is that what you said too?
Yeah. So he was a Lions fan. As a kid, I liked the Lions, and that was my team, but I wasn't like real into it because I was for a while football, and then I started racing motorcycles, dirt bikes, and that kind of took me away from high school football and stuff like that. So, but then as I get older, and I start back into watching football again, and it was always the Lions, and then here we are, present day, and it's like they're finally winning, and it's like, man, it only took a whole lifetime, but it's like, but it's cool, So that's super cool about it,
Yeah, I did. I have a lot of friends who are Lions fans, and I feel so good for them now because, because most of them I knew, it's not a new thing. You've always liked the Lions, So I feel real good for them. The good things are happening, and then this year's really good, but then half the defense, if not more, is on the IR.
I know it's frustrating, but it's the sport. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It is, but it's like I feel like there's more than most teams right now, and it's very frustrating or disappointing because it's like, man, they're there, but they just string of bad luck all the time, But we'll see. They're still knocking them out, so we'll see what happens, But
I bet on them at the beginning of the season to win the Super Bowl. I threw $20 on it, and at the time, I think I don't remember what the odds were, but they weren't super low. They were probably maybe top 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Just for that, I threw a flyer on and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. That's cool.
So that's a part of my selfish rooting interest is
Yeah.
I can win $165.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay. That's awesome. No, that's cool.
Yeah. So have you gone to any Lions games in the past few years?
Yeah, so actually the last 2 or 3 years now we're season ticket holders. So
nice.
Yeah, so we're actually going today. So
Okay.
and it's so yeah, it's gonna be I've went to
They play the night game. Right?
yeah,
Okay.
yep. They play
Minnesota.
Vikings tonight at 8. So but yeah, so we went to pretty much everyone. I gave a few tickets away to my son, and he took some friends, and then we went, family. We always go to the Thanksgiving game. So it's it's good. It's a good
cool.
good time to be there.
Yeah.
Detroit is just crazy. I mean, it's like a good vibe.
I went to Detroit maybe about a month ago to see a concert or a podcast, and it was called Criminal. It's just the woman and her team who tell stories.
Yeah.
And it was a cool time. I forget where we went. A small little theater. It was old, but it was cool. The part of town we stayed in was really cool, and it had like really cool restaurants, and you could walk everywhere. We went axe throwing at this bar.
Oh, cool.
And it was a cool time. And then we woke up Sunday morning, and then everyone's in Lions jerseys. Like, oh, there must be a game today.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fun.
All through like the fall, when it was like there's a Tigers game and a Lions game going. It's wild down there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good wild. I mean, it's like everybody's super. And then the Tigers did good this year. I don't follow much baseball, but I was hearing towards the end there, they were doing good. So it's like the whole town is just it's cool.
Yeah, man.
It's good.
Yeah. So have you had any like wild experiences at Lions games? Like anything you've seen or anything?
There was one a couple, probably 3-4 games ago. I mean, earlier on, that we walked out and there was 2 dudes fighting. I mean, like
It's so crazy.
I
to
know
me.
it's like they get talking, crap, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean,
You're not even playing. You're
yeah,
just-
and they're on the ground scrapping, throwing punches, and I'm like. Everybody just stops and they watch it, and then a lot of people are pulling off, but like I'm not jumping in to help pull off. I'm like I'll watch, man. I'm like, but it's just
World
crazy.
star.
Yeah, I'm like I just don't get it, but it's it's like, and they're all like, the one I watched. I mean, they were not like they were young kids,
Yeah.
so it's like maybe young kid, you kind of like whatever, but they were older guys.
It's a bunch of 40-year-olds
They
fighting
know
because
better, it's like whatever, But that's about it. I mean, really, that's that's kind of.
I think that's so hilarious. It's just like because you guys are rooting for opposite teams, we're gonna fight now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's I don't know. I don't get it, but I've never been that type of person to talk crap to another team because I just. It's stupid.
That's not your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it, man. I'm just gonna root for my team and go forward.
Yep.
Did you grow up around here? You lived around Toledo?
Yeah, so I grew up in White House.
Okay.
Went to Anthony Wayne my whole life, and then I didn't go to college. I went to I started working for a family business right in high school and outside of high school. So
What were you doing?
So my dad and my family, they owned a septic company, and then like a septic and we started doing well services there for at the end there. But we did that for a long time, and then it was probably 5-6 years ago. It's kind of like where I could see my dad wanted to retire and this and that. So I kind of made the decision. I split off and started my own business then, and then kind of where we're at now today.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I worked around that kind of industry for my whole life now.
How's that a high school kid? You're like, yeah, I'm gonna work in septic.
Yeah, so like it's funny because like everybody was like never gave me a hard time about it. As kids they'd be like, oh, septic, blah blah. But like what I do remember is like I had a niche of friends. I had a lot of friends that were pretty hard workers. They had jobs after school, but like mine was even more intense. My dad was like, hey, every day after school you got this, and this, and then. So, like, sometimes some of my buddies, they didn't have jobs after school, and then they'd be like, hey, let's go hang out. And I'm like, well, no, I got to go to work, and I mean, a funny story, times have changed, definitely, but when I was 16 and I can actually drive,
Mm-hmm.
my dad was like, well, hey, I got some septics for you to pump after school. I'm like, Dad, I can't do that. I don't have a CDL. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I set them all up for out west. You can go,
Yeah.
do all those ones. Well, so for like 2 years before I get my CDL, I was out pumping septic tanks as a kid.
Yeah.
And but all out like in the country, like
Yeah.
Fulton County stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of look at it now and I'm like, man, if somebody backed in my driveway with a big truck and he was 16 years old and he got out, I would just have to be like, what? Like, really? But my dad, but that's all I did my whole life. I drove trucks in the field around the shop. So, I could do it, but
Well, I wasn't driving septic tanks, but my dad would let me drive when I was 14 and a half. He let me drive.
Yeah,
And he would, hey, we need some eggs. Can you run down to the store and get some eggs? Or I need a newspaper can you give me a newspaper and get your mom and I a coffee? And I'd go and drive, and my friends would see me like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
And we didn't live in the country.
Yeah, that's good. That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just look at it now and I'm like, people would like kind of freak out if you backed in their driveway and this little kid got out. Well, I was never little, but young.
I'm sure I'm sure at some point you looked 16, right?
Oh yeah, I look at old pictures of me like I had pictures of me driving the truck when I was 16, and I'm like, dude, there's no way nowadays you back in somebody would like you just don't, things are different, you know what I mean? And but yeah, that's kind of how. And like I said, fast forward today, we split off and we're kind of doing the same thing. My dad. He did retire then, and then unfortunately he passed away not too long ago. But yeah, I appreciate that. But so yeah, we just kind of doing our thing. But
did you ever have friends that in high school that would help you or work with you?
Yeah, so I had a couple buddies. There was not so much in high school. Trying to think, no, not really in high school, but just a little bit after high school. Okay. Had a couple buddies. We started up a portable toilet company when I was there. So we did all like the portable toilet, the sanitation stuff, and that takes a lot more people and help and weekend help, night help, stuff like that. And I had quite a few buddies, 2 or 3 buddies that definitely helped do work in the business. And, and that was, how they say, never hire friends.
Yeah.
Some of them were like, it worked out, some didn't, but I always knew in my mind, like, hey, whatever happens here, I'm not gonna, let it, and, so it's been kind of, made it work and it was good, but
yeah.
So
was there ever, it sounds like the answer is no, but was there ever a thought of going to college after high school?
No.
Yeah.
No, school wasn't for me. Yeah. And it was just like, I was kind of more of I'd say, if you want to call it, trades guy, I guess, construction and stuff. And never crossed my mind. I honestly never crossed my mind to not do anything other than, that. And then, like I said, it's just, then we kind of, when I left the family business, I kind of had a thought that I wanted to do a little bit more like light excavation, heavy, site work and this. Okay. And well, when I left, it kind of like, so many people then started realizing that I left the family business, and they're like, well, call Cody to do this. Well, it was all septic because that's all I did, like the sanitation industry. So that's kind of where I never like veered off to doing my excavation I wanted, because it was hard because the work was right there. So I just took it and ran with it. And then that's where we're at today, So, but doing the same thing, just on my own. But and my wife's heavily involved. She works for the company.
Oh, nice.
So she's a we're 50-50 owners, and she's just so
that's cool. Yeah. So we talked about school being hard for you a little bit. Was it hard because I would imagine it's hard for a couple reasons. Like I was an okay student. I could have done a lot better if I actually applied myself. I didn't. Was it hard? Was the school hard, or was it hard because you went to school, worked? No, the school was hard. Yeah. I'm certain I had ADD, and I'd like sit down and be like, and I could tell myself like, okay, I'm gonna try really hard on this on study, and 2 minutes into it, I'd be like, oh, squirrel, and I'd be gone. I just couldn't apply anything. I couldn't sit in one side. I don't think it sounds terrible, but I don't think I've never read a full book to this day. I just can't sit and, but yeah, so it was the school was just, I just couldn't do it, not say I couldn't do it. It was hard.
It was hard. So, yeah, but.
Did you play sports?
So I played a little football when I was younger, like real young. Played some soccer, but nothing. But I kind of like started playing like 7th, 8th grade football. Well, then about that time, I started getting into. Oh, I always was into dirt bikes, but kind of like just around here, kind of like whatever. Well, as I was getting about, I don't know, 15, 16, I kind of could see like, man, this is like, I'm like, I think this I could. Not maybe I didn't know if I could go anywhere with this dirt biking thing, but
Yeah.
I knew I could do some traveling and make it a thing. So I didn't play any. I wanted to play football in high school. That was kind of like as a kid. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, that's what I want to do. Well, the dirt bike thing kind of took over, and traveling. We did a lot of traveling with that. So you leave Friday night after school, get to the race, travel back. So I could never beat any of the games.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but.
So you started in junior high, into high school, started dirt bike racing.
Yep.
What was the catalyst for that? It was just like, hey, did your dad do it, or if you have any brothers, did they do it, or you kind of just want to?
No, so my dad was heavy into dirt bikes. He, as a kid, he actually got his pro number. He was actually a professional.
Oh, really?
Yes, he had a lot of history in dirt biking, and so he just kind of like he quit for a long time. Then once he kind of started running his, he always had the business, but then he kind of had to get settled down after and quit racing for a while to like make a life, and we had kids and stuff, and so then he kind of when he got back into it, we kind of got back into, or he got us into it, and then
And who's us? How many?
So
of you
it'd be me and my sister.
Okay.
And I only have one sister, and she got into it. I got into it, and we kind of just started racing, and that transpired from local to like the Midwest to the East Coast to Midwest to West Coast to across the whole country. And then it even turned into internationally. So
Really?
it was just a big, like, kept building and building. So it was pretty cool.
Was it a fast moving thing? Like, hey, I'm going to start dirt bike, and then a year later, like, oh my gosh, now I'm in California. Or like, was it a slow build?
It was a slow, because I mean, you kind of experience on a bike. That's what, and it's what we did was dirt biking, which is off road. We did hare scrambles, enduro stuff. It was like it wasn't motocross. It
Okay.
was so.
Yeah, is motocross always indoors?
No, motocross is actually started outdoors on a big moto track. Like there's all the jumps. And,
Oh yeah,
and,
okay.
And then years ago, don't know when the time frame, but they moved some indoors.
Got it.
But that's supercross. They call that.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
But the off road stuff that was kind of got popular, and then that's when we started. We did a little motocross in the beginning, but then we transitioned over to off road.
Is off road more or less just a race then, and not necessarily like you're going over jumps and that kind of stuff?
So off road was typically like through the woods, down over creeks, or down through creeks, up hills, over logs, like in the woods. And
So
you just
it sounds like rallycross a little bit.
exactly.
too,
It's
right?
like
Cars.
yeah. There's
Okay.
like so rally is more like an enduro, like the checkpoints.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
like what we call enduro racing.
Okay.
A hare scramble is like a big loop. That's like could be like an 8 to 10 mile loop.
Okay.
And through the woods and
right.
so it's just racing more off road. You don't have the jumps. It's more kind of endurance racing. So
Why'd you choose that more than the other? Did you like it better? Or is it...
my dad, he was a professional motocrosser back in the day, but then he transitioned into off road after his motocross career. Well, then when we started racing, that we started in moto because it was easier because
Yeah.
there's tracks around here and stuff, and the off road you kind of had to do more traveling. So then Dad kind of quickly transitioned us to off road, which is where we kind of started then.
Okay.
But-
Is any one easier or harder than the other? Do you think, or is it all the
No,
same?
they're all about the same.
Is it?
Yeah, it just depends on how you look at it,
Do you use different bikes?
Yeah, so they would use different setup for
Okay,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, definitely. But
I would imagine the more jumps and stuff you're doing, all the shocks and suspension, all that
Yes.
stuff's a little different, right?
Yep. And typically, if you're a moto guy, you're a moto guy. If you're an off-road guy, you're an off-road guy. It's not typical to like
Go back and forth.
go back and forth. So it's once we started riding off-road, that's all we did.
Yeah. So you've rode all through high school. You're also cleaning out septic
Yeah,
tanks.
yeah, yep.
What a life! What
Yeah,
a life.
man. I working that week and making that that buck, and then just running on the weekends, man. It was and that was tough because we would go like, we'd work and you got to work day on Friday, so then all of a sudden you leave as soon as you can to go to, let's say you're going to Missouri that weekend, and the race is on Sunday. Well, you drive through the night Friday, you get there Saturday, do your sign up and get ready, whatnot, and then you race Sunday. I'm sorry, get there Saturday, and race Sunday.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like you after the race, you hightail back home and try to get to work by 7, 8 o'clock. Drive straight through.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. We did that for years.
Yeah.
And it was at first it gets to once you get into it, it's kind of tough. But like then it was just like second nature. You didn't even think about it. But then now I get in a car, I can't even drive 4 hours, and I'm like, oh my God, get me out of this thing. So it's like it's just crazy. But
So you say you did it for years. How long is this schedule?
So I really got into, I got into probably heavily traveling when I was like 17, somewhere in there, 18. Like my senior year, I think I missed like 30 or 40 days of school.
Really?
Because I was traveling. I did a race overseas that year. I missed a ton of school.
And what does school say about this?
Well, I don't know. They were at first they were like kind of like I don't really honestly know. My dad and mom handled it, and they were like, I'd get back to school and the teachers were like giving me this glare, like, But I'm like, I always tried to do like they'd send homework home, and this and that. But I'd do that on like the road trips. I'd be doing my homework.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was crazy that I that I missed that many days.
Yeah.
I still passed that year of school, so I did something right,
Sure,
But,
yeah.
But yeah, so it was they didn't kind of made it work, but like that's when I really started. Probably my senior year was like when I really got traveling, and then that took me all the way to. I got a real bad wreck in 2007.
How old were you then?
22.
Okay.
27, 21, 22. I was right at that cuff of like, I was going to national events and I was continuously getting top tens. So I was like right there, like, then,
Are there like you have like sponsorships and all that stuff?
yeah.
Too?
So right about that time I had a sponsorship from, Gas. It's a manufacturer of a motorcycle. And, they were giving me bikes and parts and like, I made like a contingency. Like if I got top tens, they paid for top 10. So, that year, I don't know, like, I probably got like 3, 4, 5 top tens. So like in the national event. So, I was not at that cuff. I wasn't getting like top threes is where you were like making money,
Okay.
like getting a bigger cut, I guess. So, 6th through 10th was kind of like paying your way,
I would imagine it's like there's like a break even point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I was at. And, but then I got in a bad wreck and, I like there for a while, it was kind of hit or miss. Like I was like initially, I really could have something bad happened. I severed my main artery in my leg.
So before you tell the story,
Yeah.
I want to go, I just want to preface this by saying, when I met you,
Yeah.
you were wearing shorts.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and your leg is pretty scarred up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I only knew you for like 2 hours, and I'm like, dude, you're not telling me if you don't want to, but what's up with your like? You got to tell me that story about your leg.
Oh, yeah.
And you did, and that's when I'm like, you got to come on here and tell us. So
Yeah.
So I know this story, but I am terrible with details and I forget things. But I want you to go through it because the way you told it standing in the parking lot was so good. Because I'm sure you've told it a lot of times. But it was so good, and you had all these details. So please start from the beginning. Explain like where you're at, what were you doing, and let's go through that.
So I'm a good storyteller. So I don't know what version I told you, but I'll try to make it good.
I'm sure it's going to be good. I just,
So-
there's when you're not expecting it, like I'm assuming you weren't expecting to have to tell your dirt bike crash story in a parking lot at standing next to Front Street.
Yeah.
But it was like it was very good. So anyway,
Yeah.
just go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't. I like telling the story honestly because like I'm to the point now, and I don't know why I've always had this. Like when people I see like a scar on somebody's leg or their whatever, I always want to like know the story,
Yes,
and I'm like, but I would never really ask because I'm like they might take it the wrong way. But now that I have this scar on my leg, I never hold back. I say hey, because if somebody gives me like a hey, I don't know. I don't want to tell you or whatever. I just pull my leg up and make, hey, look, dude, I'm just wondering, but.
Dude, I feel like scar is also not giving it its due if you just say the scar on my leg. Because it is I don't know if you have any pictures of it online anywhere, but oh my God, dude.
It's a massive scar.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's, so I was over at a race. My dad and sister were getting ready to go, or they were already in Chile, like down in South America. They were at a race there, and my mom was at home, and I was there. I was with a previous girlfriend. Her and I went to this race over in Goshen, Indiana, over kind of like by Chicago area. Super local race. That's a local for us, that close. Well,
Yeah.
we got there, and it was a 2-day race, Saturday and Sunday. We got racing on Saturday, and we're coming along, and how these enduros work is there's like woods, and then you race through the woods, and then you might have to cross a cornfield, and then get to another wood section and race through that, and then do a big loop.
Yeah.
And so I'm racing across the field, and I get out of the woods, and I'm getting ready to go across this field to go to the next wood section, and there's a guy in the main. There's like all the corn stubble where they cut the corn down. Well, the main line was there, and this guy, I was catching him super fast. So I was like, man, I'm going to cut over like 4 corn stubbles over and then pass him. Well, when I did that, there was a huge rock out there in the middle of this field, and I was doing probably 60, 70 mile an hour. And so I hit that rock, and just, that was the end of it. And I just endoing all over through the cornfield. Well, when that happened, the force something dislocated my knee.
Okay.
And when it did that, it severed my main artery in my leg or my knee. Well, in the process, somebody had stopped in the cornfield, and I was in and out of consciousness. So I kind of like would wake up and see this dude there, and then I'd like go back to sleep and wake up. One time I woke up and I've got sticks like all down my leg, like all these sticks.
Like a splint?
Yeah, like with zip ties all around my leg. And I'm like, oh, wow, this dude's good. That's cool. And I go back to sleep. And the next time I wake up, my buddy that I've raced with my whole life, he was running a couple minutes behind me. He stops and he's like telling this dude, like, hey, man, get all this stuff off his leg. And I'm like, and at that point, I kind of went back to sleep, Next thing I woke up really was in the hospital. And they're these 2 big doctors are like just yanking and tugging on my leg, and I still don't know at this point what the heck's going on.
Is this the same day?
Same day? Yep.
Okay, all right.
So all of a sudden, I woke up to them saying they need to cut my leg off, and I'm like, I don't know if that just like hit me like, whoa, stay awake. Like this is like what? And at the time, my girlfriend, she was yelling, freaking out, telling these doctors like, get him out of here. There's no way you can cut his leg off. So next thing I know, I'm in a helicopter, and
Are you? Oh, you're in a hospital. You said with those doctors. Yep. So they
didn't have a trauma unit, so that's why they were like, we got to cut his leg off, and there's no way he's gonna make it to another hospital. Well, she kind of making the big deal she did. They end up life flighting me to Fort Wayne. Well, through all this, we're talking like 4 or 5 hours. I was in and out of consciousness. Like still, like on the airplane, which I don't know if they gave me anesthesia when they were trying to like do my knee, get it back into place.
Yeah.
But through all that, get to Fort Wayne, they found out I severed my artery. That's when the first time they found out, because when they at Goshen, my toes were starting to like turn purple and black. That's when they're like, okay, he must have a severed artery. We got to cut it off. But then it was like, no, get him to Goshen or Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
So we went there. I had multiple surgeries there, and when we all done, they like taking the bandages off. As I'm awake and all this, and I'm like looking at my leg, and it looks like just chopped liver. Sure. I mean, it's like, what the heck is going on? So then at that time, I finally could get an explanation, because I still didn't know. Well, so for the longest time, they wanted to they still didn't know if they were going to have to cut it off, my leg, because I lost so much blood and dead muscle, no oxygen, all this. So they sent me home. I had in-home nurses and this coming and everything. And I had a bed set up in my mom's living room, and she took care of me. And that was interesting for, I mean, I did that for like 8 months. I mean,
Really?
oh man, it was like living in her living room in a hospital bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally I couldn't get in the bathroom because they had my leg, stretched straight out and I couldn't bend it, move it, nothing. So they put the pot, in the middle of the living room and I'm like, talk about awkward, trying to like, hey mom, you're going to gotta leave because I gotta go, But yeah, so we just finally, one of my last visits, my mom and I went to a prosthetic specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in there and like we sat down at this table and behind the guy was all these prosthetic legs. And I'm like, right then is when it sunk in. Like, holy crap. Like, I'm not getting any movement after like 3 months of physical therapy.
Yeah.
I'm not getting my toes to move or nothing. So they're like, okay, we need to make this decision. We gotta cut it off. And I'm like, dang, I thought I was like way out of this. Like, I thought we were done with this.
Yeah.
And, but so finally 2 weeks after that, we were going to do like 2 to 4 weeks yet of therapy. And like 2 weeks after that appointment, I got like a toe to move. And they just thought that was like, they knew at that point, like, okay, we got movement. There's a chance.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward to today, I have not full movement, but I have decent movement in my leg, my toes, everything. They didn't have to cut it off, but I have, a train wreck on my leg, but it's just crazy. It was a very, very interesting time in my life, but
So I want to go back to the beginning. After you crash and that guy, have you ever, like, besides that day, have you ever talked to him or seen him or know anything about this guy or nothing?
Don't know who. We tried to like figure out who the guy was, because honestly, the doctors think he saved my life.
Oh, really?
Because I sat in this cornfield for an hour or so, like guessing.
Yeah.
Well, when you sever your main, whatever they call that artery in your leg, you're bleeding out internally. I mean, I was like bleeding out. Well, the doctor said there's no way that you would have lived. This is what I've been told. I'm not a doctor, but for an hour of that big main artery pumping blood, there's no way you would have lived from that. So they think that when he was moving that knee around, they put like almost like a tourniquet. He got it pinched between my knee somewhere.
Oh,
that's what they said. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know who the guy was, and like I've asked, and in enduros, it's not like anybody can come race it. So that guy might have been a one-off.
was he a racer?
He was. Yep,
Okay.
He was there on a bike. He had a helmet on. Couldn't even tell you anything, the colors or nothing. I just remember seeing the helmet, and so I mean, it sucks because I like really wanted to meet this guy and tell him, hey man, whatever you did, I appreciate everything. And I mean, he stayed with me the whole time. He quit the race. He sat right there next to me, and but don't know who it is.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's like other things I've learned. Like somebody sent me a picture in the mail of me that they actually drew it. It was super cool. It was like this animated picture. And they sent it with nobody told me who it was.
Oh, really?
So I'm like, well, who did this?
Yeah.
Finally, it was kind of like these guys that did it were kind of like wanting me to like pry to figure out who did it. Well, finally, I found that. I found out who did that.
Yeah.
So that was cool because I got that hanging up. And well, one of my rims that I hit this rock, the rims like tacoed is what we call that. They literally are in like V's.
Yeah.
And so I got those framed and in a big wood case, and I got this picture, this guy right in the middle of it, and I got it hanging on the wall. And it's like every time I look at those rims, I'm like, it's just it don't bring back bad memories, but it's like oh, I overcome it, But yeah, so
wow, yeah, the guys out there just quitting the race, helping you out, and then going in on consciousness. I would imagine that's never happened before. I would imagine it's I would imagine it's kind of crazy and scary because you wake up, you're like, oh, this new thing's happening, and now I'm out again. Oh, wake up, now I'm in an ambulance, or wake up, now these guys are tugging on. I just can't imagine the feeling of that.
Yeah, it's very, very, very crazy feeling because it's like you're there, and like when I was in the hospital, when I would wake up, every time I woke up to me screaming at the top of my lungs.
Really?
Like because I'm in so much pain because they're just tugging and yanking and pulling. And I've talked to several people because after the race was over, I don't know because I wasn't in the waiting room, but I've been told 10 to 15 people that came to the hospital to support me.
Yeah.
And they said that, now Goshen is not a huge hospital, but they said they could hear me screaming from the waiting room all the way in. And I don't remember a lot of that because it was in and out. But it's like literally wide awake, foggy awake to like passed out.
Yeah.
Foggy awake to passed out. I mean, it's like crazy. And I could still this day remember all that, when I woke up. But like when I was out, obviously you're out. But was
there ever a thought like any of that time where like this is it? Or you're just in so much pain, we're just like you can't even think about that.
Nope, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
The never thought of that just because you don't really think that doesn't cross your mind. You kind of because you're in and out so fast. There's really no thoughts. You can put only thing I can do is put pictures to what I saw when I woke up. I can't. There's no I remember thinking about this or that. No
thoughts or feelings.
No thoughts, but I can put good pictures to everything. I can.
Yeah.
But that's it. And the helicopter guy, so I asked him. I was super uncomfortable when I woke up in the helicopter. When I finally looked, I couldn't look over. I could just look up and dude, I'm in a helicopter.
Yeah.
What is happening? So I remember asking the helicopter guy, and I'm yelling at him because it's it's kind of loud in there. He's got his his headphone things on or whatever, and I asked him how much longer, and he tells me it was 9 minutes and some seconds.
Yeah.
And I made some. I do remember. And I don't remember what I said, but a smart ass remark, because I'm sure a helicopter pilot. I mean, I'm sure right there on his dash it says. I mean, it's pretty. It probably says the exact time that he's gonna get there. Well, I'm thinking he's being sarcastic, and I was not in a sarcastic mood. Yeah,
sure.
And
your leg is falling off.
So I remember saying something, and I don't remember what exactly I said, but after I'm like, God, that guy was just being a nice guy, I'm like, but whatever. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was, yeah.
Have you been in you either sometime now, or just anywhere in the past? Have you been in contact with any of these doctors or the pilot or anything to because I would want to, especially if I was in and out, I'd want to know so much of what was going on.
Yeah. So, no, I didn't. I unfortunately. Maybe, and Fort Wayne's not that far away, but actually, I think I did actually meet a group. Actually, no, I take that back. A year later, I did meet a group, not all of them, but I was in a hospital bed for 8 or 9 months. So it wasn't when I know my mom made that comment, well, hey, there's nothing to do today. Do you want to drive to Fort Wayne and maybe we could try to meet some of your old? And at that point, I was I had no interest moving because it was the leg deal was such a. I mean, I was in pain forever, and then this wound. I had this wound vac on the side of my leg because the scar was so big. So every other day or every day, something like that, I had a nurse come and they would have to change this out the tissue or it was like a sponge, and it was weird to me, and
Sure.
So they came all the time, and when they did that, it just was so, I mean, it was just a very not awkward time, say awkward, it was just uncomfortable. That's right. And so then after when I got back to life, I could get out and do something, I just kind of was so ready to be back to normal life. I not that I by no means forget about these people at all because they literally saved my life.
Yeah.
But I just never made it there. And we did, take it back. We did once, but I don't think it's kind of foggy, but I think I don't remember all of them. But
yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And you said you're in your mom's living room for eight or 9 months.
Yeah.
Just like, what would you do for the day?
Okay, so this is funny too. So, I sat there, and where I was living was my mom's. It was a sunroom, so it had like doors, windows all the way around it, and that's where my mom would hang out, at times.
Yeah.
But you could see the family business because my parents lived there at the shop.
Okay.
So like for the first like week, I'd stare out at the business and just stare and look and be like, oh, I'd be out there eventually, this, that. Well, then that got old. You could only watch so much TV.
Yeah.
I mean, like all of a sudden, like one of my buddies came over. I don't even remember which one it was. He's like, hey, you should get an Xbox. I'm like, Xbox? I'm like, dude, I'm 22 years old. I don't play Xbox. And he's like, you should get an Xbox. He said, it would probably like take up some time. And, I'm like, all right, well, so I told my mom, I said, anyway, because I didn't have a job at that time. I was, no income. I'm like, man, maybe is there any way you can get me an Xbox? And she's like, yeah, I'll get you an Xbox. I'm like, okay. So she gets me an Xbox, and dude, I turned into the biggest gaming junkie for 8 months. I mean, and then it was like I played every day. Like,
What were you playing?
Call of Duty
Yeah.
was like the thing. Halo for a while,
Yeah.
that was like the thing. But like, I didn't know anything about Xbox. I didn't know. I mean, like,
You didn't play video games up to that?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
As a kid, I like the last like PlayStation 1 is the one I kind of last remember, and then forever never played video games. And well, as I'm sitting there, what else am I gonna do? You know? And so like. Yeah, I became a gaming junkie, dude. Like I had the headset. I was like, it was like, but and then I slept for 8 hours a day or 10 hours, whatever. And the other times, if I wasn't eating or going to the bathroom, I was playing Xbox.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Did you get good?
Yeah, I did. I got really good.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I got really good. And then after I could get back to work, I had a seriously hard time like getting away from it.
Oh,
like because that, not saying at all video games is not what you should do or should that, because I did a lot of it, but I just in my mind was like, all right, I'm back to work. I need to get back to work. I need to focus on this, and then I did want to start racing again. Like after all this wreck,
Really?
which everybody thought you're nuts, But I'm like, no, I need to do it, and but. It was so hard to knock that gaming addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, it was addiction.
Sure.
It was like,
you're sitting doing it for 8 hours or 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
It is an addiction. Yeah.
And you would think that you'd get like just tired of it. No, I mean, I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, it was crazy. But
did you make friends? Like, did you play online and stuff?
Yeah. So I made some friends, that were like. You always wonder, like, man, I'm sitting here every day, but I'm laid up. What's this guy over here doing? You know what I mean? He's probably like a 12-year-old that's like, but yeah, it's made some friends, and then got some other friends, into it.
Yeah.
And then met some actual local friends because I'd talk to this person, and they'd be like, oh, hey, we'll play with this guy, and whatever. So, but yeah, so then I did that for a while, and then after the wreck, like I said, I want to start racing again.
Yeah.
Well, that racing takes a lot of time. Like, because you go race, and then after the race on Monday, when you get back after work, you have to wash your bike, clean it, wash your gear, all that. Well, that's Monday night after. Tuesday night after work, now you got to go fix all the stuff you're wrecked on your bike. And then by Thursday, you're like, crap. The weekend's here. We got to go racing. By Thursday, you have to have everything done and packed by Thursday because Friday you're in a truck rolling. You know? So once I got back into that, that's kind of when like the gaming thing quit because I couldn't
forced to.
Yeah, I couldn't work on my bike, game. I couldn't do all that, and I was going racing. So, but it was like because I didn't, even though on my accident, I mean, I was 1 year later. From my wreck, that same race, I went and rode that event. Did not by any means race it. I got on a bike that was a borrowed bike from my buddy, and I rode around, and I'm pretty sure I finished. I did the whole race, but that was I did it. Well, but I didn't start racing right away.
Yeah.
I was still pretty much healing from
Yeah.
and because when I dislocated my knee, it took all my ligaments. It took my ACL, my PCL, MCL, all that stuff. And when they put my knee back together and fixed the artery was the only thing they cared about.
Yeah.
So then a year later, I'm like, all right, if I want to start racing, I need to get my knee fixed because you're racing, you're always dabbing your knee, your leg, and so I'm like, and my artery now is moved to the inside of my leg. It's not. You can feel my pulse on the inside.
Oh,
of my
really?
knee. Yeah, it's not. If you got to check your pulse, you got to go on the back side of your knee. Mm-hmm. Mine is right on the side of my leg, and at that point, they didn't care where it was. They just wanted to get it fixed and hook it up. So fast forward when I'm trying to hey, I want to race. I want to get back racing. Well, I went to a knee specialist here in town. I said, hey, the first step is I need to get my knee back to, good. And he's like, all right. Well, it almost want to make you gag, but he would take my knee and he could move it 3 inches.
Oh yeah, because there's no ligaments
nothing there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, how am I even walking? He's like, well, you're walking, but you're not twisting this. And I'm like, all right, there's no way I can race a dirt bike. I got to get this fixed then. And he's like, he does the scans and stuff, and he's like, I have zero interest in fixing your knee. Like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm not touching it. And he's like, it's destroyed.
Yeah.
He's like, and I'm like,
which to hear that, you got to be like, what the
yeah. So after all these years, my dad and my sister and I all went to him for knee surgeries because riding dirt bikes, that's the first thing that always is your knees because you're on them all the time. You catch your toes catch on whatever. But so he was super supportive of racing. He just thought it was. He's not that doctor that was like, oh man, racing's gonna kill
You're
you.
done.
You're done. But he was like, hey man, I'm here to fix you up. I mean, he was cool. He supported it.
Yeah.
So I asked him, I said, what can we do? I mean, what can I do if I want to race? He's like, well, we'll get you strapped up in a real good CTI knee brace. So I did that, got fitted up for that. I mean, that thing is a CTI brace. I mean, you can't be twisting and moving and stuff. So I did that, and I got slowly kind of got back into it. And then now I went back years later because I'm like, hey, okay, I should probably get this checked again.
Yeah.
You can't move it at all now. And he's like, oh, you're good. I'm like, well, no, it didn't fix itself. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, no, you're good. There's so much scar tissue in there that thing's not going anywhere. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's just what I want to hear. So, and then he said, someday, he's like, yeah, you'll need a knee replacement someday. And he says, when you do it, it'll be an interesting one because I guess there's the scar tissue is, but yeah, so, but
wow.
Yeah, it was.
So, after, have you played video games ever since then?
Occasionally, here and there, hit or miss.
Yeah.
I do it if any, through the winter, because in our business, I'll work till dark, every summer in the summer, and not always working, but you get back and
doing
out
work
the shop,
stuff.
and whatever. Well, in the summer, or I'm sorry, excuse me, the winter. It gets dark at 5 o'clock, and all of a sudden you're done working, and we're not super busy in the winter. So all of a sudden I get up to the house by 5, 6 o'clock and hang out with the wife, eat dinner, do this, and in the winter I'll be like, man, I'm gonna start up a video game again, and it hasn't been in a while, but it was but there for a little bit I was in the winter playing, but no, I always have some buddies that are always like, hey, man, you should start playing Xbox again. And I'm like, but.
What do you have? Do you have a system at home?
Yeah, so I have an Xbox at home.
Okay,
and the last game I remember playing was PUBG.
Oh,
which
yeah.
Was I
Yeah.
don't know. It was a couple years ago. But.
Yeah. That's I talk about it a lot, but I play Fortnite.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
My son, he's 13. We'll play together sometimes. He doesn't invite me all the time, but he plays with his friends a lot. And sometimes hey, Dad, you want to play Fortnite with us? So we'll play a little bit. And I play with my buddy. Usually every Friday night, I'll play for an hour or two till about 1 in the morning with my friend in Cleveland, and we chit-chat and play a couple games. But I can see, just because I know how much – I play video games my entire life. I've always had video games. There was a stretch where we had our son, and up until he was probably 7, I didn't play much. just because we were busy and he didn't play. And then we got him a Nintendo Switch, and then I kind of got into a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I love video games.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
It's hard not to like. I mean, really, if you have any background into it, or or even you pick, like, I have some buddies now that just like, really, dude, video games? You play video games? And I'm like, if you say that, you've never done it then. Like, you know, because it's like, once you try it, I mean, the graphics is so good, you know, it's hard not to like it. You know? But I was that guy, like, when I went back to work, I always kind of related it as like, you know, and not saying this in any way, but like, you know, you get a guy that's like, going through some hard times, and we've all been down that, and you like, you know, a guy like staying up late at night because maybe a guy'd go to the bar till they close every night or whatever, you know. Well, that was me, but at home in a video game, like at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, dude, I gotta go to bed. Like, I gotta get up at work in the morning, you know. And I'm like, and that was after my wreck, you know. And but like, it was, and it took a lot to like stop, but you know, it was and you say your son, and you play with your son. There was a time that when I was playing, I had a racer buddy. His name was Cody as well. Mm-hmm. He played Xbox, and then I was always really good friends with his dad as well. Well, once Cody and I were playing Xbox, his dad, Dwayne, caught on that we were playing Xbox, and he was kind of making fun of us at first, like, oh, you guys, you whatever. Well, all of a sudden, Dwayne's got an Xbox now, and he's sitting here playing with us, and it was funny because he was that guy. He's funny. He's a comical dude, you know, shit talker, shit like that. So on Xbox, it was the best. But
that's cool, man.
But yeah, so it was I made some memories with that. You know, it was cool. But
so you said you went down that. How was it going to that same place where you had your big wreck and just driving it and riding it? How was it for you?
So it was cool. I mean, it was good. I got to do it. I actually saw the rock because I was going to dig that thing out of the ground and bring that home and set it in my yard.
Yeah.
Okay, so
how big is this thing?
So this thing is as big as a pool table.
Okay,
like I went to take a shovel and start like digging it down because I mean I'm just figuring it was like the size of like, I don't know, a suitcase, like, you know. And if I could move it, I was literally bringing that rock back.
But that's what I was asking you. How far out of the ground was this sticking?
So it was up like probably a foot, something like that.
Okay.
Now, hindsight, when we go through these races, when you race through the woods, like I was saying, and then you come out of the woods to go through a cornfield and then back into another woods, every time we come out of the woods, usually you cross over a rock pile and then get into the woods, or into the field.
Yeah.
Well, now that I'm thinking about all this, those rock piles obviously is from the farmers for over the last 100 years pitching them into the woods. So this rock never got pitched in the woods because it was the size of a Volkswagen car. So I'm out there trying to like dig it off.
Yeah,
I'm like cussing at this rock, and I'm like, finally I'm realizing, like, dude, this thing's huge. I'm not gonna get it. Well, so I left it there, but the guy from the club, Steve Ricketts, the guy that kind of ran that club, he took me out there and showed me exactly where it was because I couldn't get my bearings straight to exactly where I was at.
Okay.
So he took me out there, he showed me where, hey man, right there it is, and I just stood over that thing for a minute, thinking, man, this thing just wrecked my life for like, you know, pretty much for forever because.
Well, even now, you came down the stairs well, but you could tell there's limp, right?
Yeah. I limp every day, and my work boots with a real tight around my ankle. My limp is not terribly noticeable, but tennis shoes where I got no ankle support, you can see me limp. I walk way slower. Everybody gives me a hard time, like, come on, pick the pace up. And I'm like, dude, this is all I got.
My legs shredded.
This is all I got.
Look at it.
Yeah. And I'm like, so, and then every morning I have to take a hot shower. And if I can't get a shower, like if I'm somewhere like, you know, that there's no shower or something, you know, the first like 3 hours of my morning is just terrible because my ankle's stiff. It doesn't want to move because I just got so much trauma in there, you know.
Yeah.
And but the shower helps a ton to get it moving. But yeah, I don't have. So another quick funny thing was my ankle when I got back to pumping septic tanks, you know, back to my job.
Yeah.
You know, we have hoses, 3-inch hoses that we drag all over the yards. I can't lift my ankle up to like I used to with my like. I'd have to lift my like whole leg to go over stuff.
Yeah.
I tripped and fell probably 400, 500 800 times in people's front yards, and you don't know how many people would come out. They'd see me, or they'd be standing there, like, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'm just tripping on shit over here because I couldn't like you know how like when you walk over
it could be
ledge,
a quarter inch.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
Different.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're just so used to your
Yeah.
gait.
Yeah.
And I get it.
I would when I'd walk over these hoses to get back to the truck or to the septic tank, whatever, I would trip all the time, all the time, and that was frustrating for a long time because I'm like, dude, like, is this ever going to change? Like, because I can't deal with this. I mean, I can't be falling over every day. And but eventually, your mind starts working with your leg, and you just know. But like now, you watch if I go over something small, like you can notice that I lift like my whole hip and leg. Like I do this like shimmy, you know, and it's because my leg. I try to lift my ankle, and there's nothing. It doesn't lift up. So it's it's kind of flat. But like when you walk, it's drag. It could drag, you know. So, but yeah, so that was always like I'd start,
I can imagine. So you call a company out, and then you're just watching this dude fall all over your yard.
Yeah, people would ask me like, "Man, I saw you fall. You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And then I'd have to tell the story because it's like I didn't want them to be like, "Man, this dude's drunk."
Yeah,
like,
that's what I thought too.
So yeah, I'm like, because there's been times I'd fall twice in the same house, you know, and so I'd show them the scar and just I'd have to explain, you know, because I just felt stupid. Like, hey man, my leg, I just got done with a bad accident. I'm getting used to it, and they all obviously was like, oh, okay, we get it. But like the people that I always think about, the people that never said anything and like watched me fumble all over their yard, was probably like, hey, what's wrong with this guy? You know, but it's all good, man.
That's funny.
But
okay, wow, yeah, man, that's so have you been racing? Have you been racing recently?
After that? I did. I came back racing more locally, like like in Indiana, Michigan, Ohio stuff, and I locally I end up getting to the level to where I won our local district enduro series. I overalled it. I don't know, probably 2 or 3 times. So I got back up to some speed. But I never went to a national, so I never knew, like, man, where am I at? And we're talking, you know, I lost probably 5, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. I mean, because once you get out of shape, you know, that's tough, getting back into shape. And then riding shape, we call it, that, you know, you got to get back into that. It takes years. Like, it's like if you're a person that's super in shape today and you don't do anything for 5 years, it's going to take you 3 to 4 years to get back to where you were, you know? And so it was a long process. And finally I got back and I did a couple locals, or I'm sorry, some nationals. And I got like top 20s. I got one top 15. So like I got pretty close to like where I kind of was, which was cool. And then there was this one race up in Michigan that it was just a prestigious race that's been running for 100 years, and it's very known all over the country. And as a local, even a local event, if you win it, it's pretty. I mean, it's a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah.
And every year for I don't even know how many times I rode this race, I would get close or not. I'd a DNF or whatever. Well, this one year I won the race, and after my wreck, and then all of a sudden my mind just shut off from dirt bikes. I was like, cool, I did what I wanted to do. That was like my thing, and I don't think I've raced a race since.
Really?
And, I just kind of like got out, you know, just kind of stopped, and then dirt biking. That's a fun sport. That's what you're supposed to do, is fun. And I'm trying to get back into it now, just to get back into more, you know, physical shape, you know, and I want to do it just for fun. I don't want to race.
Yeah.
And, but it's so hard for me. Like right now, I think it was instilled for me to race like my whole life, that it's like, when I just go ride, it's fun, but it's not like you can see the guys having fun, you know, but I'm over here like, it's not as fun, if that makes any sense. I mean, it's
you're. I mean, it's just you're competitive.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go full bore. I'm going to do as best I can. I'm going to win as much as all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard for you to just be like, you know what? I'm just going to go and ride around the park and have fun.
It's hard, and that's where I'm kind of struggling right now. It's like, all right, because I've said several times in the last couple years, all right, I'm gonna get back racing.
Oh.
Because I'm like, that's the only way I can get back into riding. Well, so I don't know. It's I would like to get back into just riding, like having fun with some guys. You know, I have a group that they ride every weekend up in Michigan or this or that, whatever. But it's just hard, you know. And then right now in life, we did start our new business. You know, it's been 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got that going. So it's, you know, it's hard to like juggle all that. You know, you want to put all your mind on that because, you know,
That's
it's a new
what's paying
business.
your bills.
Yeah. So it's like, and then, you know, it's back when I was racing, I always had my dad. Like if all of a sudden I'd get banged up like I did, it was always, well, Dad took over, which he always was at that time at my age. But like I had no fear of, I mean, yeah, I had bills and, you know, my dad helped me, but it was not, you know, it was still, a little, you know, it was tough when I, you know, had no income coming in. So they, but now it's like, I'm that guy. So it's like, if something would happen, like who's going to step up to run? I mean, my wife's, you know, she's 100% involved, but she's the smart one in the business of running the books and this and that. And she knows everything about the company, but maybe not getting on a backhoe and, you know, digging, you know, installing a septic. So it's like, who's gonna, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things that like, you kind of got to think, man, is it worth it? You know, but you don't want to live in a bubble either, you know? So we'll see. Yeah. You know, if we ever get back to it or not, but you know.
Well, I tell you what, if that ever does happen, let me know. Cause I would like to, I think it'd be fun to see, like, I've never been out and I'm assuming these races, much like I can envision in my head, there are spots around races to like stand and watch people and safely and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. So there is a club that my buddy started here in Toledo. It's called the Toledo Trail Riders. And now these races I do, when I said I went to Goshen for an enduro, that's local. So that is local. Like you got to drive 2.5 hours. That's like the closest race possible for an enduro. Well, my buddy started this Toledo Trail Riders, and in the beginning, he kind of was asking if I, you know, he was trying to get me involved in it, and I was busy, and honestly, and I've told him this too. I thought he was like, he was trying to get the Maumee State Forest, which is that riding park. He was trying to get them more like into like doing like more single track for dirt bikes and whatever, and it was kind of one of those things that I was like, I just don't see it happening, so I kind of like lost drive, and he kind of kept going with it. And he's done a ton with it, and he's doing great. Well, they do have a race. It's a family enduro. So it's like, you know, we used to ride, you know, normal enduros, but then they have a family enduro. It's for the kids. And it's over at the Port Authority in Toledo. It's right here in Swanton. They have this race, and you can go out and watch and spectate and whatnot. Now, I'll let you know on that because it's super, it's cool. And then seeing the kids, it's fun. But the bad thing about enduros is, you know, like I said, we race in the woods. So like, as far as you can see that way in the trees, and as far as you can see to the right, to the left is all you can see. Yeah. That one person. But then you have, hundreds of bikes coming by. But it's like, if you're there to watch one person in particular, you'll see them like 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes as in like, because you can move to different sections in the area. But so it's it's cool.
What's your buddy's name that has that?
Matt Bucher.
That's what I thought. He was on the podcast.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he talked about it was him and another guy. I can pull it up, but he was on the podcast because I when you said Toledo Trail Riders, it reminded me of that.
That's funny because I was actually when we get done here, I was gonna tell you to like, hey, I got a buddy that loves to talk, and Matt, you know, you like to talk. I was gonna say, hey, man, this guy might be a good fit for your podcast, but I didn't realize he was on here, so that's sweet.
Yeah, he because it was with Todd Stanton. They made a movie about Paul Schlegel.
Oh yes.
So we talked a lot about that. When that movie came out.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's a episode that came out in May of 23, episode 162.
I can't believe I did not see that.
It was fun. So yeah, like I said, when you said Toledo Trail, I was like, that sounds very familiar.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, so that's buddy of mine.
Got it. So well, Cody, I appreciate you coming here telling your story again. I much like you, when I see things when I saw your leg, I'm like, man, I really want to ask. And I always preface that by saying, hey, look, you don't have to tell me. Yeah. Also, I told my parents, I feel like if he didn't want to talk about it, he'd wear pants all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's funny about the pants thing because literally until I met my wife, I never wore shorts.
Oh, really?
I never even owned a pair of shorts. And I would never, even before my wreck. And all of a sudden, she just kept drilling me like, hey, you should wear shorts. And I'm like, dude, I got white legs, this big old nasty scar. She's like, who cares? And she's influenced me. I mean, she's awesome. And so I've like, okay, I'll wear shorts. Well, now I wore shorts all the way to like December. It's like, and it's.
I was kind of shocked to see you not in shorts when you came out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like now it's like that's all my wardrobe is like mostly
funny.
shorts. And but yeah, so it is funny. It's and like a beach. Never been to a beach, so I met her. And then
Really?
Yeah, so it's crazy. But,
Well, again, Cody, thanks for coming out here. This was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see if you hopefully you get back into racing how you want to race, like whether it's full go or whether it's just whatever makes you happy. I think, and I'm sure you'll find that. It takes time, man. It takes time.
It does, and I hope it does, and I can get on a more of a cruise and a
leisure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
Hey, man, appreciate it.
Thanks for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. If you want to reach out or be on the show, just search the Nerdball Podcast on any social media. If you want to email us, that is thenerdballpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, there's always YouTube, so you can go on there, subscribe to the Nerdball Podcast, and watch the podcast every week. As always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuddlefish Graphics, Big Daddy Graphics, and Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab for always supporting the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.